So let me walk you around in Gephi for a bit. Gephi is an open source software that can be used to analyze and visualize social networks. It is not extremely powerful, so if you plan to getting serious with social network analysis, this is probably not a tool that you will be using often. However, it is very easy to get started with it, and it has very nice functionalities concerning the visualization of data, so it might be useful after all. In this short video, I will show you how to import data and to have a look at the data structures that you have discussed in the workshop. So I briefly close the window here, and I have prepared two sets of data. You have already learned probably that social network data often comes in pairs, one file focusing on the attribute data and one file focusing on the relationships between the nodes. So let's have a look at the node data, which is very simple. You see, I only have one column in it, which is called ID, and then very creatively I have 5 nodes called A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so that's all that information that is contained in this file. Now let's look at the other file. It's a bit more complex, but not really very complex still. You see there are 3 columns here. It's the source, the target, and the type. So from this you probably can also tell what kind of formatting is used here. It's a so-called edge list, right, where we have the source node and the target node. And then here we have an extra type, which you see here is just focused on whether the graph as such or the ties are directed or undirected. In our case, it's the latter. It's an undirected graph, so there are only undirected ties. And then you see, okay, A has a linkage with B, B has a linkage with C, and so on. So based from this, you probably can already guess the shape of this network. But let's see for ourselves. So I am opening Gephi again. And most importantly, there are the two windows that are important. The graph window, which is empty now because there's no data loaded, and the data table, which kind of shows you the data in a more structured table. Now I'll go to File, Import Spreadsheet, and basically what I could be doing is I could import the nodes and then import the edges. However, as you have seen, it's so simple and there are no really attributes in the nodes file, so I will just import the edges because any node that is used will be created anyway. So if you look here at the preview, you see it looks about correct, looks like that what we've seen before in the raw data file, which was a CSV file, by the way, as you can see here. So I just click next, and it then gives me just some opportunity to define the data types, which is of no importance here because we don't have any numbers or figures that should be interpreted as numbers or as numerical values. So I just skip this and click on Finish. And what you now see here is the nodes table, as indicated here by this little tab here. And it looks pretty much like that what we've seen before, right? So let's look at the edges. That also looks more or less familiar. We see that there is the source and the target as we have seen it in the file before. We see that the file type is that the tie type is undirected. And what is also automatically added is the weight score. So every tie has a weight of 1, which means exactly it's an unweighted graph. Now let's go to the graph tab. Here we see what the graph looks like. I zoom in a bit so that you can see it. So we see 5 nodes here, the black dots, and then 5 black lines indicating the ties or edges. Now probably that's not the layout you had in mind when you thought about the structure or visualized the data in your head. So maybe let's see whether there's a better layout algorithm that we can choose. I'm just making a few setup here and run this algorithm setting procedure here. And there it is. That's probably the graph you had in mind, where A connects to B, connects to C, connects to D, connects to E, and E connects to A again. So a classical circle.